Hi everyone, welcome to the Jolly Grammar course for levels 1 and 2. My name is Dr. Tina Udoji and I'm here to take you through the course. You will recall that in the Jolly Phonics, the children were taught the 42 main sounds of the English language. They were then taught how to bring these sounds together in what we call blending to form words. They learned how to look at text, identify the sounds inside the words in order to read the words. They learned how to form their letters really carefully. They built on these skills and they started to read and write very quickly. So they became able to write their news and to read their news and the news of the other people. And now it is time for us to advance this learning, their literacy journey by bringing in the grammar, punctuation, and spelling. That's what we are going to do in the Jolly Grammar. When the children started with the Jolly Phonics, they were 4-year-olds and below, but now they've moved from reception class into primary 1. So they are 5. And from primary 1, they will move to primary 2 when they are 6. So the course we are going to be doing right now is going to cover those two levels for primary 1 and primary 2. The Jolly Grammar is really interesting. It is multisensory, allowing the children to move, use all the senses in their bodies. It has colors and actions for every part of speech in order to make the learning concrete for the children. The children love it and the teachers love it. The Jolly Grammar course is actually a 7-year program covering the children right from birth to when they finish primary school. So it starts with the Jolly Phonics when the children were learning the sounds of the letters up till when the children are in the reception and the Jolly Phonics is consciously taught to them in a way that they finish that class completely able to read and write. And then they come into this primary 1 where we are today. If you look at the screen, you will see how the program grows with your child. Starting with age 4 to 5 and below, which is the early years with the Jolly Phonics, and then gets to primary 1 and 2 with the Jolly Grammar levels 1 and 2, which is what we are going to do today. After today's course, we will be free to advance it even further by going into Jolly Grammar levels 3 and 4. So let's start this course by quickly revising what we learned in the Jolly Phonics, because this is the foundation that the children are going to bring into your class for this grammar. Okay, look at the screen, see the sounds, the 42 sounds in the English language, and we are going to quickly say the sounds, make the actions, remember everything we taught the children. You need to remind the children and be sure yourself that the children remember their sounds and remember the actions. So we are going to say the sounds once and make the action once. So we start with S, A, T, E, N, K, E, R, G, A, umbrella, L, F, B, A, J, O, I, E, R, Z, V, ooh, yeah, x, ch, sh, the, ow, I, you, ah. Well done. And those are the 42 sounds and their actions. You can see that your children know these sounds and remember the actions because everything is in their heads. The Jolly Phonics class too, remember? We taught the children some basic alternative sounds. You can see from the screen that we are looking at those alternative sounds that we taught the children in the Jolly Phonics. Remember, we introduced the sound A, as you are seeing on the screen. And the alternatives to that sound is A for play and A as in flame. We also taught the sound E as in feet, your feet for walking. And we have the alternative E as in leaf of a tree. We taught the sound of I for tie, and it has alternatives I for high, and I for buy, and then I for tide, the magic E. We also introduced the sound of O for boat, O, the sound of O, with the alternatives O for snow and O for bone, still with the special E. We taught the sound of U, as you see in the word Q, with the alternatives of few, you, and U for cube, cube of sugar. We taught the sounds of as in her, with the alternatives of go and hurt, I feel hurt. We taught the sound of E-O, as in fork, and then the alternatives of hunt, as in a haunted house, and as in paw or jaw, and for ball. We taught the sound of oi for coin, with the alternatives of oi for boy. And finally, we taught the sound of ow for mouth, with the alternatives of ow for cow. This is the background the children are bringing into our grammar course. We are now going to advance their literacy journey by bringing in the grammar part, punctuation, and spelling. See you in the next class. Hi there, welcome to lesson 2 of the Jolly Grammar program for levels 1 and 2. Today, we are going to look at what grammar is all about. The Jolly Grammar focuses on the structure aspect of grammar. That means it covers grammar, spelling, and punctuation, leaving the rest of the days of the week to be covered with other aspects of literacy. So Jolly Grammar is actually a part of a wider literacy program. It leaves room for handwriting, for reading, for comprehension, creative writing. The different aspects of grammar should not be taught in discrete forms. As the teacher teaches, she should be looking at the children applying the skills they learn in the different areas of the different subjects they take in the class every day. For instance, if you teach a particular spelling pattern, you will make sure that the children are able to use that spelling pattern when they are doing some writing in their creative writing class. In the same way, if they met some words in your grammar class, or if you taught them a part of speech, why don't you ask them when they are reading their books to find the part of speech that you have just taught in their reading book? So if it's an adverb, for instance, in chapter 1 of their reading book, they can list out the adverbs they saw in that chapter 1. By so doing, they will be using the skills they learn in your Jolly Grammar class in the other subject areas they take every day in school. Going back to the Jolly Grammar, let's look at the aims that we plan to cover with this Jolly Grammar. The Jolly Grammar is intended to reinforce and extend the children's phonic knowledge, which we started back with the Jolly Phonics course. Remember? The grammar is supposed to teach spelling systematically. It will expand vocabulary and improve comprehension for the children. It will introduce parts of speech and verb tenses. It is going to introduce morphemes such as prefixes and suffixes. It will enable the children to analyze and parse text, finding the function of words in a sentence. It will introduce syntax and sentence structure. It will develop the children's use of punctuation. And then finally, it will develop the children's dictionary and thesaurus skills. So it's going to be a busy course, but I assure you, you are going to love it. So what is grammar? When we talk about grammar, what actually is grammar? In a simple form, grammar actually refers to the way words are used together to form current written or spoken communication. This includes the set of rules that set forth the correct way of usage. In other words, you can't just pull words together in any way you like. There are rules that are conventionally set out, and they dictate how you should combine these words together to make sentences and communicate effectively. There are two elements of grammar which we should look at right now in order for us to understand fully what grammar actually means. The two elements of grammar for us to look at now is the syntax on one side and then the morphology on the other side. So looking at syntax, what does it mean? Syntax simply means the arrangement of words and phrases to create well-formed sentences in a language. What I mean now is what format do we use to arrange our words and our phrases to form sentences? When we say Benga is a boy, can we say a boy is Benga? Is a boy Benga? Which ways do we put our words to form sentences that are coherent? What is the grammatical arrangement of words and phrases to create coherent content? That's what syntax looks at. How about morphology? Or would you like some more examples of syntax for it to sink in deeply? Let me give you another example apart from Benga. Funke cooked happily. That's a sentence. We have how many words there? Funke cooked happily. 3 words. And you get meaning from it. Funke cooked happily. Let's change the syntax. Funke happily cooked. Still the same 3 words, but now the arrangement has changed. And you will now pause to think of what meaning changed a little bit. Let's change the syntax a little more. Happily Funke cooked. 3 different syntax arrangements, and they are all grammatically correct. Now you begin to have an idea what we mean by syntax. By rearranging just one word in that sentence, a varied syntax is formed. Each is grammatically correct and acceptable English language form. So to conclude about syntax, we now understand that syntax is a concept that governs the structure of sentences, the order in which the words are put together always has a bearing on the meaning of any sentence as a whole. So syntax rules must be followed in order for the sentence to be grammatically correct and to make sense to the speakers of that language. The arrangement of the words. That's what syntax is talking about. Now it is time for us to look at morphology. Remember the 2 elements of the grammar, syntax, morphology. We have looked at the syntax, the arrangement of the words in a sentence, and how we can move the words to form different syntax. Now let's look at the morphology. Morphology is the study of morphemes, which are the smallest unit of meaning in a language. A morpheme can be one whole word, or it can just be a suffix or a prefix. This suffix or prefix is understood to change the meaning of the word once it is used. I will give you an example. Look at a word like the one on the screen, break, as in break a plate. We have that word break. Once a speaker of English language looks at the word and says it, he has a meaning already in his head, break. Now you want to change the morphology of that word, you can add a suffix, able, breakable. The meaning has changed. Breakable, a breakable plate, a breakable pot. You can also add a prefix before the break, and you've changed the morphology. This gives you an idea that it is the smallest unit of meaning in a word. So syntax and morphology are both important in the way that people derive meaning from language, but they are different. Syntax refers to the order and use of words, while morphology refers to the parts of words that create meaning. So syntax that refers to the words being arranged together to give meaning to sentence is the external structure of grammar, while morphology that refers to the part of the word that creates meaning is the internal structure. So external syntax, internal morphology. Let's look at the benefits of grammar. Is it important to have good grammar skills? Some people say it doesn't matter. Well, let's see. Once you understand grammar, you begin to look at what you say and what people say and ask yourself if they are really saying what they mean. You will start to see that sometimes you don't mean exactly what you say. This causes many misunderstandings between people, and it brings about failures in life, in places of work, in different areas of our lives. You would often hear people say something like, well, yeah, I know I said that, but that's not actually what I meant. It is the problem of bad grammar. One of the benefits of understanding grammar, spelling, and punctuation is that you can always be sure that you are saying and writing exactly what you mean to write and say. So there will no more be the embarrassment that you feel and the pain that you get of being misunderstood by people because of bad and poor grammar, or badly spelled application letters or memos that you write to people. The shame that you feel because those papers get right put into the bin immediately. Let's take a look at this advert. Can you see what is showing on the screen? It says, does anyone have a wheelchair, electric or pushed by a relative they no longer want? Let's read it again. Perhaps I'm mistaken, but I actually saw this advert. Does anyone have a wheelchair, electric or pushed by a relative they no longer want? Does this sentence make any meaning to you? I don't know about you, but it doesn't make any meaning to me. In fact, different people can give it different meanings. A relative they no longer want, somebody they want to trash. It is simply because of poor grammar. If they are able to write better, punctuate, use better words, the meaning they want will come out. You see, the importance of grammar is not something that can be questioned. It is very important to communicate well. It is good grammar that makes a person able to persuade another person. It is good grammar that makes somebody convince another person to do what he didn't want to do before, because he's able to pass his message across very effectively. See you in the next class. Hello there. Welcome to lesson 3. It is Jolly Grammar again. In the last lesson, we looked at the meaning of grammar. We looked at the 2 elements in grammar, syntax and morphology, arrangement of words, external, the meaning, the smallest meaning of words in morphology. But how about spelling? What does it really mean? And does it matter? There are conventionally accepted ways that letters are used to form each word in the English language. It is not enough for you to know that a particular word is made up of so many letters. These letters must be arranged in a particular way in order to get that word. And that's what spelling is all about. This journey for spelling started in the last course with the phonics, because that's where the children learned the sounds that each letter makes and how to put these letters together to make words. That's the beginning of spelling. Now they are going to go deeper into how letters are put together to make words. Let's look at a word like cat. Cat is made up of k, a, t. 3 letters. Now, if you arrange them with k first, followed by a, and followed by t, then you make the words, blend them together to make the word cat. But if you start with the letter a, followed by t, and then the last one, k, you will not get cat. So you have to use the conventional way to put these letters together in order to make the word. That's what spelling is all about. So we can define spelling as the correct order of letters in a word. We can also say that spelling is the process of writing words by using the letters conventionally accepted for their formation and using those letters in the accepted order. That is spelling. We know that spelling is very important. How about punctuation? Punctuation is another aspect of grammar that people find difficult to use. When we talk about punctuation, just because you have the right letters, you know how to put them in the right order to make your words. So you put the words all together in a text, and then they have no meaning. This happens because of lack of punctuation. When we speak, we use pauses and the pitch of our voice to make what we say clear to the person who is hearing what we are saying. Punctuation plays a similar role in writing. Punctuation makes it easier to read and understand what we write. So we can say that punctuation is used to create sense, clarity, and stress in sentences. We use punctuation marks to structure and organize our writing. Without punctuation, text will sound stupid and ununderstandable. Punctuation is so important in our writing because it helps the reader to clearly understand the message that is being passed to him. Without punctuation, the meaning may become lost, or even worse, a different meaning may be conveyed instead of the meaning the writer has in mind. Let's look at some writing so that we can understand what I'm saying. If you look at the screen, can you see the image of a grandfather and his grandson about to eat? And then what is written there is, "Let's eat, Grandpa." So is the grandson going to eat his grandpa? This is very dangerous. With punctuation, the grandpa is saved. We just put a little comma. "Let's eat, Grandpa." Can you see the grandpa has become saved because the grandson is simply telling him, "Let's eat, Grandpa." Without the punctuation, the grandson was just about to eat the grandpa. Punctuation is very critical. It can even save lives. Let me show you another text. Let's read together what we have on on the screen. Perhaps you don't always need to use commas, periods, colons, etc. to make sentences clear. When I'm in a hurry, tired, cold, lazy, or angry, I sometimes leave out punctuation marks. Grammar is stupid. I can write without it and don't need it. My Uncle Harry once said he was not very clever and I never understood a word he wrote to me. I think I'll learn some punctuation, not too much enough to write to Uncle Harry he needs some help. Oh my God, I'm even tired. No punctuation at all. Did it make any meaning to you? Did you get any clarity at all? Any sense of the message I was trying to pass to you? I didn't get any myself. Well, let's try to punctuate it and see if it makes any sense. Let's see. Perhaps you don't always need to use commas, periods, colons, etc. to make sentences clear. When I'm in a hurry, tired, cold, lazy, or angry, I sometimes leave out punctuation marks. Grammar is stupid. I can write without it and I don't need it, my Uncle Harry once said. He was not very clever and I never understood a word he wrote to me. I think I will learn some punctuation. Not too much, enough to write to Uncle Harry. He needs some help. Can you see what punctuation has done for this text? Suddenly, it became a very interesting passage to read. A wonderful passage. It makes sense. Clarity is there. Meaning is conveyed. Without punctuation, no meaning is conveyed. It becomes punishment. So you see, once the children are able to get their punctuation skills, their grammar skills, and their spelling skills, they are well on their way to strong literacy that will anchor their lives forever. So, let's look at the teaching method we're going to use for this grammar course. You see, it is not enough to have good content, to have everything in your head. If you do not have the right method to pass this content to the learners, the content will stay with you and your learners will stay without. Methodology is always very important, and it starts with the teacher being conscious of the ages of the children he is teaching. That will help to determine the methodology of teaching. In Jolly Grammar, the teaching is very active and very inclusive. The children are included in their learning. They own the learning. It is active, it is multisensory. The children are allowed to move and to speak. Colors, actions, and games are used throughout the teaching to enliven the lessons and make the subject matter more memorable for the children. Because of that, the children never forget what they are taught. For instance, each part of speech is introduced with an associated action and color. These actions and colors are then incorporated into activities that the children perform throughout the grammar program. It is going to be a very interesting course. You wait and see. See you in the next lesson. Hi again. Welcome to lesson 4. In this lesson, we will start teaching parts of speech. We need to start teaching the children that we actually think and speak in sentences. It doesn't really occur to people, but we do. When we think in sentences, and when we speak in sentences. Now, in the sentences we make, each word in that sentence falls into a category These categories are called parts of speech. So a part of speech is actually a category to which a word is assigned in accordance with the word's functions and the way the word works in that sentence. Let me repeat that. A part of speech is a category to which a word in a sentence is assigned according to the function that that word performs in the sentence. Each word in a text performs a different job, has a different meaning, or denotes a different thing. These are called categories and parts of speech. That is how to describe the parts of speech in a way that the children will understand them. Now that the children understand parts of speech to mean the categories to which words are assigned in the sentences where they appear, it is now time to start teaching them the parts of speech. And the very first one we start with is the noun. The concept of the noun is easy for the children to understand because at this early stage, when the children are only 5, we teach them that a noun is something physical that you can touch, you can take a picture of. And so it's easy for them to understand. They look around the classroom and they see a chair, they see a person, they see a pencil, and they know that these are nouns. So it's easy for them to understand that. We know, you and I know, that there are more complex definitions of noun, but at this stage, the children don't need those yet. They are going to start off laying the foundation first by understanding that a noun is something physical that you can touch, you can take a picture of, it's probably a noun. Then we tell them that there are 2 types of nouns. The first is proper noun, and the second one is common noun. We start off with the proper noun because it flows smoothly from the jolly phonics the children did. At the end of the phonics, they started learning about capital letters, using the capital letters, and they now know how to write their own names. And they know that when they write their names, they have to start writing their names with a capital letter. And so this is a good place for us to move in and tell the children that proper nouns are those nouns, those things that we can touch and see and take a picture of that are special. They have a name. Because they are special, they are called proper nouns. And when we write them, we start off the writing with a capital letter. So we tell the children, for instance, that each person's name is special to him, and so is a proper noun. We can make an illustration with a girl or a boy in the classroom, any child at all, and ask him what his name is. Can he write it on the board? If his name is Ben, then the teacher tells him, you see, Ben is special to you. It's a special name. It's your own name. And so when you write Ben, you start with the B in capital form because it is special. On the other hand, for common nouns, they are not so special. They are names that belong to a class of things. Because they are not so special, we don't start writing them with a capital letter. They are not special names given to people. They belong to a class. So, for instance, a chair is a noun. It's physical. I can touch it. I can take a picture of it. But that chair can be any chair. It can belong to any person. There's nothing special about it. And so it's a common noun. And when I write it, I'm going to write that C, the beginning consonant for writing that word. I'm going to write it with a small letter and not a capital letter. So let's look at the screen and see some examples of the proper nouns and the common nouns. For each of them, we know that the nouns cover a person's name. When it is a person's name, it includes that person's surname and his titles. So, for instance, if it is Mr. Obi Taiwo Musa, Mr. is part of his name. So it starts with a capital M for Mr. and then Obi starts with a capital O, Taiwo starts with a capital T, and Musa starts with a capital M. Then when we look at a place, because it can be, a noun can be a person, a place, a building, a date, a day. So when you look at a place, River Niger, Mount Everest, these must start with a capital letter because they are special. River Niger is not just any river. It is a particular river. It is the River Niger. So it has to start with a capital letter. And when you talk about building, it could be Charles Building, it could be Idowu Building, or Derby Primary School. No, Derby Primary School is not just any primary school. It's a particular primary school. And so it's special. It's a proper noun. And it has to start with a capital letter. And when we talk about days of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, these are special. Monday cannot automatically or magically change to Wednesday. They are special. And so they are proper nouns and they have to start with a capital letter. On the other hand, the common nouns are not so special, so we write them with small letters. How about the methodology? Remember what is so special about the Jolly Grammar? Is the methodology. We are talking about children who are in primary 1, 5 years. They come in when they are 5 years and leave when they are 6, moving to primary 2. And we're covering these 2 levels in this grammar course. These children are still quite small. So the methodology of teaching must be quite inclusive. You must take the ages of the children into consideration. Make sure that the children are having fun. You engage the children. They are participating in their learning. And so these parts of speech, they have actions and they have color. All nouns are black in color. Whether it's proper noun or common noun, the color is black. And the action for proper noun is placing your 2 fingers on your forehead this way. This is proper noun. But when you are talking of common noun, you place your whole hand with your fingers on your forehead. And this is common noun. So you see, once you have this lesson in your class, it's good to come into the next class, revise what you have in the previous class by calling out different names of nouns, mixing them, proper nouns and common nouns, and let the children say the color and make the action. So when you talk about Benton School, for instance, the children will go this way because it's proper noun. And when you talk about Moses, they go this way. Proper noun again. Abigail, still a proper noun. But when you talk about a pencil, they go this way because it is a common noun. Very easy for them to understand. We've already seen that nouns are generally what we can see physically, touch, take a picture of. But when those nouns, when those things that we can touch, when they are special things, special names given to persons or places, they become proper nouns. But when they are not so special, when they are common, when they belong to different people, they are not just one person's own, then they are common nouns. When they are proper nouns, the color is black and the action is like this. When they are common nouns, the color is still black because it's black for all nouns, but the action is then like this. But what's the difference Let's look at the difference. It's not usually necessary or possible to use the articles the, a, or an with a proper noun. Let's look at an example to see if this is true. I can make a statement like, I live in Lagos. We know that Lagos belongs to one city, and so it's proper. It's a special name. Can I say I live in a Lagos? I live in the Lagos? No, it's not appropriate. So those articles don't usually go with proper nouns. But when you are talking of a common noun, bring a chair to me in the classroom. Keep that table there. You see, it becomes easy to use articles a and the with common nouns because you are referring to one out of many similar objects. And that's why they are common nouns. These common nouns are generic names given to different things, not special names given to a particular thing. And so that's why we use articles for them. When we talk about nouns, we immediately use the opportunity to look at how to make nouns that are singular plural. We quickly explain to the child that when it's talking about a chair, having used the article a or the chair there, give me the chair there. Bring a chair to me. We can talk about many chairs or two chairs, which becomes the plural form of that noun by adding s or es to the word. So when we say, I want to buy a dog today. No, let me buy 2 dogs. So I have moved from 1 dog to 2 dogs, and I've added an s to make it plural. That 1 dog was singular because it's 1. But when I made it 2 dogs, it becomes plural, and I added s to it. However, if the noun I am talking about ends with ch, that's ch or sh, sh or s or x or z, these 5 sounds, then we add es instead of s. I talked about dog. When you spell dog, it ends with G, D-O-G. G is not ch, is not sh, is not s, is not z, and is not x. Therefore, I add only s. But let me give you another word. That is my box. The noun there is box. How do you spell it? B-O-X. It ends with an X. Therefore, I will add es to make it plural. So the box will change to boxes. I want to buy 2 boxes, but I want to buy 1 dog or 2 dogs. So look at the examples on the screen, and you will see the words I made from those letters that I told you about. Ash, plural will become ashes. Bench, plural will become benches. Box will become boxes. And size will become sizes. Yes, we know that there are tricky plurals, but at this point in the child's life, at age 5, it's not the time to teach him that child is not child's. when you change it to plural is children. These are tricky. Let the child first of all learn plurals by adding s or adding es. Later on, as he advances to primary 2, he will now learn the tricky plurals. See you in the next lesson.
In your sentence, can you use a noun? Yes, and I can write it down. One for an object and one for a name. One for a place or date, now you do the same. Common nouns are everywhere you look. Objects like a chair or book. If it's one to touch or see, a common noun it will certainly be. Proper nouns are something with a name, a person, place or date or game. Choose a name that you like better and start it with a capital letter. In your sentence, can you use a noun? Yes, and I can write it down. One for an object and one for a name. One for a place or date, now you do the same.
Hi there. In this lesson, we're going to teach pronouns. So what are pronouns? Pronouns are those little words that we use to replace nouns. Without pronouns, language will become very boring and repetitive. You can't use nouns all the time in your text. Otherwise, it will become boring. So we have to replace some of those nouns with pronouns. Those little words we use to replace them are called pronouns. Look at that short passage on the screen. Jenny, John, and Mary decided to go to the zoo. Jenny, John, and Mary prepared the food. And then Jenny, John, and Mary set off. Do you like that passage? I don't like it at all. It is very boring. But if you replace some of those nouns with pronouns, the text becomes better. Let's look at it again. Jenny, John, and Mary decided to go to the zoo. They prepared the food and then they set off. Do you see how interesting and sensible the passage has become? It is because we've replaced some nouns with pronouns so that they don't become repetitive. The color for pronouns is pink. You will soon see how we are going to use these colors. Remember the colors of the part of speech we've learned before? Can you remind me? Yes, black for nouns. Remember the actions, proper nouns and proper nouns, but now is pronouns and the color is pink. Okay, personal pronouns are the little words we use to replace a particular person. But what do we mean by particular person? Do we mean Peter and Paul? No, grammatical persons are different. We have 3 grammatical persons in grammar. Let's be clear what we mean by them. The first person is the speaker, the person speaking. The second person refers to the person being spoken to. And the third person refers to the person who is being spoken about. There is a personal pronoun for each of them. Now, let's simplify it. That first person who is speaking is I. The second person who is being spoken to is you. The third person who is being spoken about is he, if it's a male, or she, if it's a female, or it, if it is an inanimate thing. Now, these three persons can be in singular and can be in plural. So let's look at that. It's interesting. First person I, singular. But when that first person is plural, it becomes we. I is one person, but we, more than one person. 2 persons, 3 persons, 4 persons will be called we. Second person, you, but when it is plural, it is still the same you. But the context in which you use that you will show you that it's a plural. The third person singular is he, if it's a male, or she, if it's a female, or it, if it is an inanimate thing. But when it's plural, it becomes they, whether it's male, female, or inanimate, it's they. You can see everything on the screen, showing you first person singular, first person plural, second person singular, second person plural, third person singular, third person plural. So like I explained before, first person is the person speaking, second person is the person being spoken to, while third person is the person being spoken about. These are the different persons in grammar. And that's how the pronouns represent them. So let's look at the actions for the pronouns. Remember, every part of speech has a color and has an action. We have seen that the pronoun's color is pink. Let's look at the actions. First person singular, I, point to yourself. I. Second person singular, point to someone else, you. Third person singular, point to a male, he. Third person singular, she, point to a female. Or third person singular, when it's not a human being, point to the floor, it. How about first person plural? We, point to a circle to include yourself. But when it is a second person plural, point to 2 people, because even though it is still you, but it's now plural, meaning that it's more than 1 person, 2 persons. When it is third person plural, point to the class next door, they. So let's take it again together. I'm showing it now on the screen. Let's go. I, you, he, she, it. Now, how about the plurals? We, you, and they. Excellent. Well done. All this makes sense to the children because these are things they meet every day and they relate to. We have what we called a pronoun poem that helps the children to remember which pronoun is first person, the person speaking, which pronoun is for the second person, the person being spoken to, and which pronoun is for the third person, the person being spoken about. So we go, I am standing, I am walking, I am sitting on the floor, I am reading, I am writing, I am learning more and more. Then the teacher can say, use the second person singular. And the child will go, you are standing, you are walking, you are sitting on the floor. You are reading, you are writing, you are learning more and more. You use different persons to allow the children to use this poem, and it helps to reinforce their learning and helps them to remember which person you are talking about at all times. Very interesting. Now it's time for us to practice everything we have learned so far. We have looked at 2 different parts of speech. Now, under noun, we learned proper noun and common noun. Then we learned about pronouns, personal pronouns, the 3 persons for singular and for plural. So it is now time for us to use the colors and the actions. It is now time for us to practice. Take a look at the sentences on the screen showing now. Let us now use them, say them, make the actions. We have 3 sentences showing on the screen. Let's go. I am in Kaduna. Did you get it? Kaduna is a proper noun because it's the name of a city. Therefore, it's proper. The next one, he is on the chair. What is chair? It is a common noun. Nothing special about it. It's just a chair, like many other chairs. Therefore, it is a common noun. Your third opportunity to get it right now. They are sheep. Is sheep a proper noun or a common noun? Sheep is referring to no particular sheep. One sheep is like many other sheep. Therefore, it is a common noun. And you remember they, third person, plural. You point to the class next door. So let's quickly take the 3 sentences again now. This time, you've got to get it right. I am in Kaduna. He is on the chair. They are sheep. Well done. You see how interactive the Jolly Grammar is? Remember what I said to you? It's not enough to get all your content going, have everything inside your head. How do you take what is inside your head and give to a small child of 5 in a way that he will understand, in a way that will be very interesting, in a way that will be fun for the child? That's what we are doing. That's what makes Jolly Grammar so interesting. The child is involved. It is about the child. See you in the next lesson.
Very far, just look at you and me. Introducing pronouns, 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 personal pronouns, including you and me. Repeating names is such a fuss, is such a fuss, is such a fuss. Use a pronoun, them or us or I or he or she. Introducing pronouns, 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 personal pronouns, including you and me. With this or they or we.
In today's lesson, we are going to be looking at the articles. There are 3 articles in the English language: a, an, the. These 3 articles are very important. They're a special kind of adjectives because they refer to the nouns. They help to define nouns. They define the nouns as specific or non-specific. Now, in the English language, the, THA, is the only specific article that exists in the English language. And it defines the noun specifically. This means that it refers to a specific noun, not a generic noun. And it applies to both singular and plural nouns. So for instance, if I say, bring me the box, or bring me the boxes, it means I'm not talking about just any box. There's a particular box, or particular boxes I'm talking about. I have used the singular and the plural forms of box to show that this article, the, can be used for the singular and it can be used for the plural form. But it must be for specific nouns, not for generic nouns. On the other hand, a and an, they are non-specific. This means that they are indefinite articles as opposed to the, which is definite because it's very specific, always referring to a particular noun. A and an can be used for any noun that is not specific, and they refer to non-specific things. Now, how do we use these articles? Let's look at that. In usage, it is important for the children to be able to say their sounds well, so they will be able to use the articles very well. In using a or an, a simple rule is to tell the children to look at the noun that the article is referring to. The article is referring to the noun that is following that article. If the noun starts with a consonant letter, then you use a. But if it starts with a vowel letter, you use an. So for instance, an apple, an ant, you see the noun starts with a vowel letter. But there are some exceptions. The exception comes when the noun starts with a silent H. When that letter, the consonant, is silent, it means it can't be heard, and so it should be disregarded. For instance, in a word like hour, the hour of the day, 2 o'clock, you cannot hear that sound in H. And so you cannot regard it as a consonant. And that is why we use an when describing hour or honor. An hour is an honor to meet you because the H is silent. Again, when we are looking at the long U, when it is used in a word like uniform, unicorn, union, you see, in these words, that long U is making the sound of Y. And so it's treated like a consonant because that's the sound that we're hearing. Therefore, which article should we use for it, since the sound we're hearing is a consonant sound? Yes, we use a because it is the sound of Y. A unicorn, a uniform, and not a uniform, because it is not a vowel sound, even though it's a vowel letter. But when you say the word, the sound you hear is a consonant sound. So you see the importance of sound? If a child is not able to say his sounds very well, he would say an hour. If he calls hour or honor, he will then use a wrong article in his writing. And then he fails it. So we've got to watch out for things like this for the children. See you in the next lesson. The part of speech we are learning today is verb. Verb, the color is red. Action, hot red. The color for verbs is red. And the action is to swing your clenched fist, move it backwards and forward at your side as if you are running to show action. You are actually taking action. That's what verbs are about. So we start teaching the children about verbs by describing it as a doing word. To run, to walk, to dance, to sing. These are doing words. It is an action, an event, a state, or a change. In any of these situations, is an action word. So we make it easy for the children by asking them what they do with that word to in front of it. To dance, to run, to cook, to sing. These are simple tenses. It makes it easy for the children to understand what a doing word, a verb, is. Remember, the color is red, and the action is to clench your fist and move it backwards and forwards at your side as if you're running. At this point, it becomes necessary to teach the children about conjugating verbs. When people hear about conjugating verbs, at first they got confused because of the big word conjugating. But to conjugate verbs just refers to how a verb changes to show a different person. Remember the three persons that we have seen? The first person, the person who is speaking, I. The second person, the person who is being spoken to, you. The third person is the person being spoken about. He, if it's a male, she, if it's a female, it, if it's not a human. So, to conjugate a verb means to show how that verb changes, to show a different person, to show a different tense, whether it is a present tense, something happening now, or something that happened in the past, or something that will happen in the future. It can also show a change when it is a different number, because the verb must change. If you're talking about one thing, and when you start talking about more than one, the verb changes. So when you show these changes, you are conjugating the verb. You see how easy it is? It creates different forms of that verb from its principal form. So let's conjugate the word to run. Using the first person singular, I run. Second person singular, you run. Third person singular, he runs. You now add s. You see how you've conjugated that verb. It has changed from only run to runs. She or he or it runs. Because of the change in the grammatical person, that verb has changed. How about the plural? First person plural, we run. Second person plural, you run. Third person plural, they run. There is no change. This is what conjugation is all about. And we have to get the children to understand conjugation and how the verbs change depending on the person you are referring to or the number. It will change. You add S or you don't add. So let's conjugate verbs in the past. Because we've only just conjugated in the present, we need to conjugate in the past and conjugate in the future. But how do children understand about the past? It's difficult for the children to understand the past. So before we start conjugation, we talk to the children about what they did yesterday or what they did last week. The child may not understand the difference between yesterday and last week. For him, all of them are in the past. But he can tell you the story about what happened, what he did last weekend. Maybe he went to the park with his parents. Maybe they took him for an ice cream. Or maybe she went shopping with her mom or with her dad. So they can tell you the story and you tell them, okay, that is in the past. So you pick a verb from the story they have told you and conjugate it in the past. When we conjugate in the past, we form a regular past tense by adding ed to the root of the verb. The root of the verb is the starting point of that verb. So, if the verb we want to use now is cook, we can conjugate cook using the different persons, the three persons that we have used before. First person singular, I cooked. Second person singular, you cooked. Third person singular, he cooked or she cooked or it cooked. How about plural? First person plural, we cooked. Second person plural, you cooked. And third person plural, they cooked. In all the persons is the same ed we have added. This helps the children a lot in their writings because everything we are learning about is grammar. Now, when we add this ed, it calls for some more teachings to the children. Remember in their Jolly Phonics class when they were learning the sounds, they learned the vowel sounds. Now, we can tell them that if a verb has a short vowel sound, there must be two consonants between the short vowel and the ed suffix that you use to conjugate the verb. Now remind me about your short vowel sounds. Remember you learned all about them in your Jolly Phonics class. There are 5 vowels and they make 5 short sounds. Look at them on the screen. A, E, O, A is for A, E is for E, A is for I, O is for O, and A is for you. Now, any verb that has any of these short vowel sounds inside it must have 2 consonants before this ed you conjugated the verb with. If that consonant is not 2, you must double it. So look at the word on the screen. Bat, B-A-T. Does it have a short vowel sound? Yes, because in the middle is a short vowel sound. So if you want to conjugate but in the past, you know you will add ed, but you can't add the ed yet because that t is only one. Therefore, you must double it. So it becomes batted. Sweet, isn't it? Let's look at another example to see if it really works. Another word, pin. P-I-N. P-I-N. Is there a short vowel sound there? Yeah, I is a short vowel sound. Now, the consonant after A is N, and it is single. It's not double. So if you want to conjugate it in the past, you must double it. Pinned. I pinned him down. So it becomes P-I-N-N-E-D. But what happens when you have double consonants there already? What do? You will not double it again because it's already two. You simply add ed. But does this happen actually? Yeah, let me show you. Look at that word there. Pick. P-I-C-K. Is there a short vowel there? Yes. I is a short vowel. And so what's the consonant following it? C-K. There are two. So when you want to conjugate, simply add ed. Picked. You don't need to double anymore because there are two already. Oh, it works. Can you think of any example to give me for these ones that have double consonants? Okay, let me give you another one. How about lift? L-I-F-T. Any short vowel sound? Oh, yes. I. After I, what consonant is following? F-T. Two. No need to double. Add your ed. You've conjugated in the past. It works. The most important thing to remember when you're conjugating in the future is to remember that you only use will and shall. You have that choice when you are conjugating with the first person singular or first person plural. But if you are using the second person or the third person, you only use will, not shall. Practice time. Are you ready? Okay, you will show me that you remember the parts of speech we have taught, you remember the colors, and you remember the actions. Time to prove it. Look at the sentences on the screen. Let's go. They work in London. London is proper noun. Next one. He is jumping on the bed. Don't wait for me to do it first. You do yours. Third one. She is playing at Inky's. Inky is the name of a person or a thing or an insect. Therefore, it's special to him. So it's proper noun. It's written in black. We eat in the kitchen. Kitchen can be any kitchen. Common noun. Can you see the different colors? Pink for the pronouns, replacing the nouns. Red for the verbs, action. And black for nouns, whether they are proper nouns or common nouns. Sweet. Jolly grammar. It's because we are talking about verbs that we conjugated, talked about articles that changed the tenses. Therefore, it is important that we look at the tenses now and see the actions and how to use them. So let's look at the tenses. When we are talking about the past, we point backwards over our shoulder with our thumb, like this. When we are talking about the future, we point to the front with our forefinger to show that it's something still in front, the future, the past. But when we are talking about the present, we point towards the floor with the palm of our hand. Remember, when it is it is one finger. But talking about the present, okay, so if I'm talking about the past, like this, the future in front, and the present. So now you can see, with the verbs, we covered a lot of things. The color for verb is what remind me, red, hot, action. We know about conjugating. You remember your short vowel sounds, and whenever you have a verb with a short vowel sound in it, then before you conjugate, there must be two consonants between that short vowel sound and your conjugated word. So remember to use this carefully. Remember the actions, remember the colors, and they are home free.
Have you heard of doing words? They are also known as verbs. Verbs are active, verbs are fun. See if you can look out for one. Girls and boys, they like to play. Dancers like to swish and sway. Horses like to jump and trot. Lions like to roar a lot. Teachers like to help and care. Friends, they like to give and share. Spiders like to crawl and creep. Babies like to go to sleep. Cleaners like to scrub and wash. Swimmers like to splash and splosh. Workmen like to dig and drill. Chefs, they like to bake and grill. Anything that you can do, to laugh, to walk, to work, to chew. All of these are doing words. Now you know a lot of verbs.
Hi there, and we're going to look at adjectives today. The color for adjectives is blue, and the action is to touch the side of your temple with your fist. Can you think of why the action is like that? Adjectives are descriptive words. An adjective describes a noun. And what is the action for nouns? Remember? Proper noun and common noun. So the noun has to do with the head. And so because the adjective has to do with the noun, therefore the action is also close to the head. Touch the temple with your fist. And that's the adjective. The color is what again? Blue. So we teach the children that an adjective describes the noun. Let's teach this with an example so it will be very easy for the child to understand. Let's take one noun because we say it describes the noun. So pick up one noun. How about a plate? Every child knows what a plate is. Okay, so I put a plate and I want to describe that plate. Because adjectives don't just describe nouns, they make the noun sound very interesting. In fact, the reader starts to see what the person is talking about inside his head because of the kind of adjectives he used. So, what kind of adjective would you like to describe this plate? A pink plate. As soon as I say a pink plate, I'm sure you're seeing a pink plate in your head, right? That's what adjectives do. They bring the story alive. We can use more than one adjective, so why don't we try? What other adjective, other word can we use to describe this plate, bearing in mind we have already described it with a pink plate? How about two pink plates? Yes, a number can be an adjective too. So two pink plates, two adjectives. Colors can also be adjectives, like you see, pink is a color, two is a number. So you see, an adjective is very important when you are writing. Now, do you want to try to see how you have learned? How many parts of speech have we learned already? Do you remember? Okay, let's practice them now. Look at what we have on the screen. Let's see if you remember. I sit on the big blue chair. Shall we do it again so you will remember? Even the color is telling you what part of speech it is. I. What is I? A pronoun? Replacing my name. So instead of saying Tina sits on the big blue chair, say I sit on the big blue chair. Great. How about the second one? Chip zooms down the high slide. Well done. The third one, she is drawing in the orange notebook. Now, can you see that the orange there is not the fruit orange? It is color orange, describing the noun notebook. You see how easy it is to learn grammar. Not just easy, but fun as well. The children are participating actively, using their senses, thinking for themselves. They are owning their learning. See you.
Adjectives are rather clever. Add a noun, they work together. What you get is quite exciting. It's descriptive writing. Let me show you how to do it. Really, there is nothing to it. Adjectives make nouns exciting. It's descriptive writing. Take a path and make it rough. Try a quiz and find it tough. Take a house and make it creepy. Look, the baby is sleeping. Take a car and make it blue. Try a dress and make it new. Take a cat and make it lazy. Look, your brother is crazy. Take a ring and make it old. Try a river and make it cold. Take a dog and make it sporty. Look, your nose is naughty. Adjectives are rather clever. Add a noun, they work together. What you get is quite exciting. It's descriptive writing.
Hi there. In today's lesson, we are going to look at adverbs. Remember, in the last lesson, we learned about adjectives. The color was blue and the action was a fist on the temple. We described adjectives as describing words that describe nouns. But now we are looking at adverbs, which are almost sisters to adjectives, because an adverb is also a describing word. But instead of describing the noun, it describes the verb. I know it can be confusing. When I was little, adjectives and adverbs confused me. I couldn't tell them apart because of the way I was taught. And that's why I love Jolly Grammar so much, because the way it teaches this part of speech, it makes it easy for the children to differentiate between two similar words. So both the adjective and the adverbs are describing words, but the adjective describes the noun while adverbs describe the verb. I always tell the children, think of the adverb first. It describes verbs. Therefore, the adjective describes nouns. So for the adverbs, the color is orange, and guess what the action is? Can you tell? It describes the verb. What is the action for the verb? So the action for the word that describes the verb has to be close to it. And the action is like this: to bang one fist on top of the other. So you see, it's close to the verb, just like the adjective is close to the noun. So an adverb describes the verb, usually by telling us how, or where, or when, or how often something happens. You know, in the verb, something happens, an action takes place. So the adverb describes how that action takes place, or where it took place, or when it took place, or how often it took place. For instance, to swim slowly is telling you how the swimming is done. I cooked quickly. Quickly is telling you how I cooked. Therefore, quickly is the adverb describing the verb. And what's the verb? Cooked. The adverb is very easy to know in a sentence. To identify in a sentence is easy. So, shall we practice together? Let's go. This time, make sure you don't fail any, because it's getting more and more. As we learn more and more parts of speech, we have more to practice on. So far, we've learned about the nouns, proper nouns, common nouns. We've learned about the pronouns that we use to replace the nouns. Then we learned about the verbs. We now learned the descriptive words we use for verbs. We use the adjective to describe the nouns and use the adverb to describe the verbs. So it is time to practice. Are you seeing all the sentences on the screen? Let's go. Keeper eats. Show me the other one. No, you failed it. Keeper eats hungrily with a big smile. Hungrily is describing eats, while big is describing smile. How did Keeper eat hungrily? How is the smile? Big smile. Okay, let's look at the second sentence. Make sure you get it this time. Beef runs carefully round the big playground. Let's do it again. Beef runs carefully round the big playground. The third one, Floppy barks noisily at the naughty children. Okay, last one, I walked slowly through the lovely garden. Did you get it all? You can practice as many times as you like. All the sentences are there. Try it for your children. Try it for your nieces, your nephews, your grandchildren, your neighbors' children, and you see how they love it. Jolly grammar is really lovely, and it's incremental. You start and you build and you build and you build and you build. Each time you build, you go back to where you started and take it up again. So at no time does the child forget what he has learned before. Instead, what he learns forms a step for him to climb to the next one, which forms another step to the next one. And each time he's making use of all his learnings before for the future learnings. Awesome. See you in the next class.
If you're walking down the street, how are you moving your 2 feet? Describe the verbs, it's such great fun. Adverbs interest everyone. You're walking quickly, you're feeling sickly. What a useful little word. You're laughing madly, you're limping badly. There are so many adverbs to be heard. If you're studying in your class, how are you making sure you pass? Describe the verbs, it's such great fun. Adverbs interest everyone. You're reading nicely, you're writing precisely. What a useful little word. You're working neatly, you're talking sweetly. There are so many adverbs to be heard. Adverbs, adverbs, always fun. So many ways to get things done. Calmly, clearly, fairly soon. Join in with this adverb tune.
Oh, hi. We are actually starting to look at the parts of speech that we teach to children in level 2. That's children in primary 2. So these children have gone from primary 1 to primary 2 because we are merging the primary 1 and 2 skills together in this lesson. That's why we are now moving into the primary 2 parts of speech. Remember, in the primary 1, we learned about adjectives, descriptive words, describing nouns. We are going to learn about possessive adjectives. They are still adjectives, but a possessive adjective replaces one noun and at the same time describes another noun by saying whose it is, who it belongs to. Let me show you an example. Look at the screen. Lucy fed her cat. Lucy fed her cat. We can say Lucy fed Lucy's cat. But look at that possessive adjective, her. That her is used in place of Lucy, so it's replacing Lucy. And it is also describing the cat by saying that the cat belongs to Lucy. It's telling us whose cat it is. That's why it's a possessive adjective. There are 8 possessive adjectives. These 8 possessive adjectives are my, your, his, her, its, our, your, their. Are you noticing something? Yes, they go with the pronoun. You remember we have I, you, he or she or it, and then the plural side, we, you, their. That is how the possessive adjectives go too. They go according to the pronouns. So, let's put them all together. Look at the screen and see how I have put them together for you. The possessive adjectives go alongside the personal pronouns because there is a possessive adjective for each personal pronoun. Each personal pronoun has a possessive adjective for it. So, the first person singular is I, and the possessive adjective for it is my. So when it's describing that noun or pronoun, it says my. Second person singular for personal pronoun is you, and the possessive adjective for it is your cat, your pencil, your phone. Third person singular, he for male, she for female, it for non-human. Possessive adjective for this third person singular is his for he, male, his pencil, or her for she, her phone, or its for non-human, its fur, its hair. How about the plural? First person plural, we. The possessive adjective for it is our. Our food is ready. Second person plural, you. And the possessive adjective is your. Third person plural, their. Possessive adjective is their. You see, once you remember the personal pronouns, you remember the possessive adjectives that go with each of them. Here is an exercise for you. I want to see if you can identify all the possessive adjectives in this exercise. It's easy peasy. You already know that a possessive adjective replaces one noun while describing another. So now is the opportunity. Identify all of them. In this exercise, I have all the adjectives listed in their blue color because an adjective is blue in color. I have my, your, his, her, its, our, your, and their. And the passage is, Ben's friend Adam came to visit. He brought his coloring books and pencils. Your books have lovely pictures in them, said Ben. This is my favorite book, replied Adamo. If we share our colored pencils, we will have plenty of colored pencils for that picture. Ben fetched his colored pencils. He took them out of their box. Now, see how many of these possessive adjectives you can identify. Very easy. Let me show you how I have identified them. Take a look at it. Now I want you to score yourself and see how many you got. And go over it again. If you miss out any, check, and I'm sure you will get it. When we teach possessive adjectives, it becomes important for us to talk about apostrophes because they can confuse children a lot. I want to show you this. It's, and it is. These are 3 different writings that contain the same letters, ITS. Okay, you can see that in the first one, there is an apostrophe after T before S. It is a contraction of it is. We are not teaching contraction right now, but because I don't want it to confuse children at this stage, so I teach it in a light form this way. And I tell the children that the apostrophe is to indicate that something is missing there. When you write it in full, it says it is. But when you don't want to write it in full, you remove that I that make is and put an apostrophe to show that something is missing there. But when it is a possessive adjective, it doesn't require an apostrophe at all. It's not a contraction. Nothing is missing. You've not removed anything. So it is just its, its, without any apostrophe. So you must remember it. When you say the boy's toy, look at it on the screen. The boy's toys becomes his toy. The book's cover becomes its cover. There's no apostrophe. You didn't put an apostrophe in his toy. So how can you put apostrophe in its cover? If you put an apostrophe there, it means it is cover. That it is already possession. It's a possessive adjective, so it doesn't require an apostrophe. It is important for the children to understand this so that they will not be confusing these words. When an apostrophe is needed to indicate possession, like Ben's toy, it is very clear. The toy belongs to Ben. So it's Ben's toy. It is his. We will teach contraction later when the children are a little bit older. We've taught them more things to help them understand the contraction, because there are different contractions, not only the ones that relate or look like possessive adjectives. These ones are different, and that's why we are showing them at this time. In the same vein, let's quickly look at homophones. These are words that sound similar to one another, but they have different meanings and they actually have different spellings. But they sound similar, and children confuse them a lot. I am talking about homophones now because I just talked about apostrophes. So look at words that are showing on the screen. There and there. Where and where. Sit there and there. Can you see the difference? How about where are you going? What are you wearing to go? What will you wear? These sound alike. Where and where. And then the third one, where. You have to look at the context. What is that sentence talking about for you to decide which of the words is appropriate for that place. The same thing applies to our choice. How about these are? And how about the hour of the day? They all sound alike. Same thing with I've been working on this problem for a long time. I am being hounded, being and being. This, I think, is even the most common mistake that are made by adults. When they want to write being, they write being. So we must be careful, because these are the things that can change the meaning of the sentence to say something that we don't intend to say. When we use words appropriately, the meanings we have are conveyed. See you in the next lesson.
Oh dear, what can the matter be? Homophones are always confusing me, sounding alike, but it is quite clear to see they are such different words. I read a whole book with a cover so red, I ate up 8 burgers, I was overfed. The wind blew the blue scarf right over my head. These are such different words. Oh dear, what can the matter be? Homophones, they are spelled differently, meanings aren't the same. It is clear to see they are such different words. I spotted a bear that had fur that was bare. I tried not to stare when I tripped up the stair. The hare ran so fast that it whipped up my hair. These are such different words. Oh dear, what can the matter be? Homophones are always confusing me, sounding alike, but it is quite clear to see they are such different words.
Hi there, and today we are looking at conjunctions. Conjunctions are parts of speech that join parts of a sentence together. You know, children are very fond of making short, repetitive sentences. Instead of writing longer sentences, they just keep repeating sentences because they don't know how to pull them together. So we teach them how to use conjunctions to bring these sentences together to form longer sentences. The color for conjunction is purple, and the action is to put your hands apart this way and bring them together. This shows that there are 2 sentences apart, and the conjunction will bring them together. Makes sense, doesn't it? Bring them together. Apart, together, apart. Okay, so let's look at the 6 most useful conjunctions. These are the 6 that the children use constantly, adults use, all of us use every day. The first one is and. Second one, but. Third one, because. Fourth one, or. Fifth, so. And the 6th is while. They are very common. You know, when we teach conjunction, it can confuse children a little bit. A very easy, practical way of teaching them something like that is to get 2 different objects and tell the child to tell you a little story or make a sentence with this particular object. So the child can say, I like my blue pencil. That's good. It's a correct statement. The child then is asked to use this green pencil to make a statement. The child can look at the pencil and say something like, I don't really like my green pencil. He's using the same like. He's made two short sentences. So you use conjunction to bridge that gap that exists between these two pencils and bring the two sentences together. So you tell the children that they can actually make this happen by saying, I like my blue pencil, but I don't like my green one. You see, the child has used but to make this sentence and this sentence to come together and become one instead of two different sentences. Let me give you some examples. Look at this passage on the screen. Rob went to the zoo. It was his birthday. He took his friend. He was not lonely. They looked at the animals. They walked around. They saw snakes. They saw monkeys. It was cold. They had fun. Shall we go home? Shall we look at more animals? Asked Rob. What is wrong with this passage? The sentences are short and repetitive. They can be joined together to be made more interesting. They need conjunctions. Now, can you add the conjunctions? Use the conjunctions that I've written on the top. The 6 most useful conjunctions. Use them to link these sentences together. Let's go. Rob went to the zoo because it was his birthday. He took his friend, so he was not lonely. They looked at the animals while they walked around. They saw snakes and saw monkeys. It was cold, but they had fun. Shall we go home or shall we look at more animals? Asked Rob. Can you see how much more interesting this story has become because of the use of conjunctions? With this, the children start learning that the short sentences they put in their stories make the story not very interesting. But when they use conjunctions, they bring the sentences together and make the story more engaging and more interesting, which is what we are all trying to do in the grammar.
Oh, my sentence has 2 parts that I don't want to split. I need to join them up somehow, so let's get on with it. Conjunction time again. Conjunction time again. It's time to use a joining word. Conjunction time again. I use and all the time, more than I think I should. Time to use another word to make my writing good. Conjunction time again. Conjunction time again. It's time to use a joining word. Conjunction time again. Why not try big horse? Or maybe try although, where there is another one or for or but or so. Conjunction time again. Conjunction time again. It's time to use a joining word. Conjunction time again. Conjunction time again.
Hi there. Today we are looking at prepositions. A preposition is a word that relates one noun or pronoun to another, often by describing where it is or where it is moving towards. The color is green, and the action is to point from one noun to another. That's the action, showing that it is relating one noun or pronoun to another by telling us where it is or where it is moving towards. The color again is green. Action is to point from one noun to the other. Now, let's practice. If you are smart, get ready and make sure this time you get everything. Look at the screen. Let's go. B flies over the wood. Oh, I think some of you are failing it. Let's look at the second sentence. Snake slithered slowly into a dark hole. You are waiting for me to do it first. I saw that. Let's go again. Second sentence. Go again. Snake slithered slowly into a dark hole. Hole is a common noun. The third one, I dropped my pencil and it rolled under a chair. I like this one. It contains everything. Shall we do it again? I dropped my pencil and it rolled under a chair. If you got this one, you are really listening very well. Very sweet. That's preposition. Green. Action is to point from one noun to another. It is that word that describes one noun or pronoun relating to us, that it is moving from one place to another or telling us where it is located. That's preposition.
I want to use a preposition. It will tell me the position. Over, under, inside, outside, mission, preposition. It is certainly worth knowing where exactly something's going. Is it through, along, or nearby? Mission, preposition. It is only right and fitting that I know where someone's sitting, underneath or right behind me. Mission, preposition. I have noted down and jotted where the object can be spotted, up or down or right beside you. Mission, preposition. Prepositions always know whereabouts a noun will show, or where it is going to go. Mission, preposition. I want to use a preposition. It will tell me the position. Over, under, inside, outside. Mission, preposition.
Hi there. Today we are going to parse. Parsing is the process of breaking down a sentence into its elements or into different parts so that the sentence can be understood. Simply identifying the function of words in a sentence. This is very important because it helps us to see what part of speech each word is. The children's ability to parse will grow over time. They will develop it gradually. You can start by giving them small, simple sentences so that they can identify the function each part of the speech, each word performs in that sentence. In order to do this, each sentence must be looked at carefully, each word studied to find out what it is doing there. Look at the contents of the sentence and see how the word fits in that context. What function is it performing? Let me give you an example of a sentence so we can pass it together before I leave you to pass your own. Okay. 6 boys swam quickly. 6 boys swam quickly. So can you pass that sentence? For every word in that sentence, tell me which part of speech it is. 6 boys. So what do you think? We talked about numbers being adjectives, describing nouns. 6 is a number, isn't it? And what noun is it describing? Boys. So 6 is an adjective. Boys is a common noun. Swam is a verb because it's describing it's an action. Quickly is telling us how that action was done. Therefore, it's an adverb describing the verb. So adjective, common noun, verb, and adverb. 6 boys swam quickly. You see, it's easy to pass. So let me give you another sentence because I know you're very smart and you can pass all sentences. Let's look at this one. The light lights up the light in his light eyes. It is on the screen. The light lights up the light in his light eyes. Can you pass that for me? You know, for you to pass a sentence, you have to read it well, understand the context. That understanding will tell you what part each part of speech is performing in the sentence. The light, the is an article. Light is a common noun. Lights up, action. The light, another common noun. In his light eyes. Light eyes, adjective describing common noun eyes. So, shall we use the action to do this? The light lights up. The light in his light eyes. Yes, you did it. Well done. Good job for you. Now you can pass any sentence by finding out the job that each word in that sentence performs. You are on your way to being an expert in grammar. Well done. Good job. With all we have learned so far, it's very easy now to make the writings of our children very interesting. They can now use different parts of speech, not out of rote, but because they understand them. And anyone they don't feel happy about, they change them. Because they know how to. They understand what each word does in a sentence. See you in the next lesson. Hello. This lesson we are going to be looking at sentences. I know the children are very young. In fact, you could say they are too young to learn about sentences, but no, this is the time to start the rudimentary knowledge of sentences. After all, we've just told them that we think and write in sentences. So the children should know what sentences are. If you don't tell them, they will be writing the sentences, linking one short sentence with another over and over again using the word and. So we've got to teach them a simplified definition of sentence and help them to understand that description of a sentence. So they will be able to assess their own writing and see if they are making correct sentences. So we tell the children that a sentence is just a group of words that starts with a capital letter, ends with a full stop, and must be an expression of a complete thought and must make sense. So we've given them 4 ways to know a sentence. 1, it must start with a capital letter. 2, it must end with a full stop. 3, it must be an expression of a complete thought. And 4, it has to make sense. If a group of words does not meet these 4 criteria, then they do not make a sentence. I am going to show you some examples on the screen now so that we will illustrate this very clearly for the children. Look at that sentence, or rather look at the group of words on the screen. The dog is spotty. Now let's use our 4 criteria to see if this is a sentence or just a group of words. Our first criteria says that group of words must start with a capital letter and end with a full stop. Does this start with a capital letter? No. The first word there is the, and it starts with a small letter. Does it end with a full stop? Yes. Is it an expression of complete thought? Yes, the dog is spotty. Does it make sense? Yes, it does make sense. But because it has failed one, it is not a sentence. So, you see, the children start to understand that just because this group of words have only one area of failure does not make it half a sentence or a semi-sentence or almost a sentence. It is either a sentence or it is not. Because it doesn't start with a capital letter, it is not a sentence. So the children start to understand that they need to have all these areas checked correctly before they can say that they have a correct sentence. Let's look at the second group of words. The dog swims on the. Now, does it start with a capital letter? Yes. Does it end with a full stop? Yes. Is it an expression of complete thought? Not to me. I don't know what thought this is. Does it make sense? No, it does not make any sense. Therefore, it is not a sentence. Easy peasy. Let's look at the last one. I sleep in a bunk bed. Does it start with a capital letter? Yes. Does it end with a full stop? Yes. Does it make sense? Yes, it does. And is it an expression of complete thought? Yes. And so it is a sentence. This is such an easy way of explaining sentences, introducing sentences to children. After this class, in the next class you have with the children, bring up, different groups of words and let the children tell you what is wrong with each one using the criteria you've already given to them. They will be able to assess every group of word and tell you which one is a sentence and which one is not. It's easy for them. You've just made it so easy. See you in the next lesson. Hello again. In this lesson, we are going to be looking at compound words, speech marks, and questions. You would have realized that we are taking the different aspects of literacy at this level for the children who are 5 years and 6 years and addressing them so that when the children write, their writings will be more interesting. They will be able to address the different issues that children usually have in writing. Okay, so when we talk about compound words, they simply mean the word we get when we put two different words together, and they now make a different meaning. When they are separated, each of them means something different. But when you put them together, the meaning that you get is different from the meaning of either of the words. Let's look at some examples. Tooth and brush. We know what tooth means. We know what brush means. But when you put them together, they now make one word called toothbrush, which is a completely different noun, different thing. Let's look at another one. Sun and flower. Meaning two different things. When you put them together, they form another word, which is sunflower, which is a different thing. Another one, rain, coat, two different nouns. Once you put them together, they form a word, a third word called raincoat, which is a form of jacket that you wear. Star and fish are two different words. Bring them together and they make starfish. Easy for the children to understand if you teach these in ways that they will understand. Give lots of illustrations. And once this is taught, remember that you need to use every opportunity to let the children identify what you have taught them in the other classes. For instance, when the children are reading or doing creative writing, tell them to show you when they meet a compound word. So when a child meets something like toothbrush and goes, wow, this is a compound word, and she writes it down, it shows you that they are practicalizing what you are teaching them. So that's about compound words. Now let's look at speech marks. Speech marks are used before and after anything that is actually spoken. You've got to describe this very well for the children to understand. When you make a sentence, when you use a sentence like, woof woof said the dog. Now, what did the dog actually say? The dog actually said, woof woof. That's the only thing the dog said. And so your speech marks will enclose woof woof. Look at it on the screen. You can see the first sentence, woof woof said the dog. It doesn't have any speech marks at all. And then we ask the children, what did the dog say? They will respond, woof woof. And so we tell them, it is those words that were actually said by the dog that we will enclose with our speech marks. Easy? So how about questions? Children, a lot of the times, find it difficult to differentiate between questions and sentences. And so they write a sentence and put a question mark at the end. to tell you that this is a question, but it's not. We tell the children that when a sentence is worded in a way that an answer is expected from the person you are talking to, then that is a question. If it is not worded like that, then it is a sentence. But if it's worded in such a way that you expect a reply, a response from that person, it is a question and must end with a question mark, not a full stop. You have to remove the full stop at the end of a sentence and replace it with a question mark. Shall we look at some examples? Okay. Before we do, let me also remind you that what we tell the children is that the easiest way to start off asking questions and differentiating between questions and sentences is to use the words that elicit answers. These words are what, why, when, where, which, and who. For instance, what is your name? When a child says this, he's obviously going to pause and wait for the other person he's talking to respond to him. That shows you it is a question, and we have a question mark. Where do you live is the same thing. When is your birthday? Who are you speaking to? These words help the children to see how they can say a group of words and there will be a question instead of a sentence, because they will be worded in such a way as to expect a response from the person being spoken to. And once that happens, off goes the full stop, replaced by the question mark. Remember, as a teacher or a parent, you have to help the children to write good question marks. It is important, it's part of their handwriting. I'll see you in the next class.
Speech marks make it loud and clear, the words that will be spoken. Opening and closing marks, the rules can't be broken. Place them at the front of speech and also at the end. Sit them high above the line, it's what I recommend. Opening speech marks, they come first, then a capital letter. Closing speech marks, round it off, make them neat, it's better. If you can remember this, you are clever sparks. Punctuation must be placed before the closing speech marks. Use an exclamation mark if you want to yell. Question marks are also good, commas work as well. Speech marks make it loud and clear, the words that will be spoken. Opening and closing marks, the rules can't be broken.
Hello there. In today's lesson, we are going to look at how we can help the children extend their vocabularies using a dictionary and a thesaurus. You would have noticed that many children overuse a word because they don't know another word that can replace it. So whenever a child feels happy, a pleasant feeling, it will just say, I am happy, my mom is happy, my dad is happy, my dog is happy. He doesn't know another word that can replace that happy. So we need to teach the children how to use the dictionary and Thesaraus. They have to understand that a Thesaraus can help them find other words that perform the same function as happy, and they can choose from out of those words to use in their writings, depending on which one suits best for that particular time. Now, how important is extending vocabulary? It's so crucial. In fact, it's one of the most important academic achievements any child can have, because the child needs it not only for exams, but also for his adult life. When he comes out of school, it equips them for the world of work. Any employer is looking for a prospect that has a very good grip on a wide range of vocabulary. It starts right from the time the child is small, because once the child doesn't get that foundation, it becomes very difficult to build it later on. Even mental health has been linked with good vocabularies. So you see, a child really needs to extend his vocabulary. But how can we do that? Let's start with the dictionary. A dictionary just is a book that tells us how a word is spelled and what that word means. Usually children are scared of dictionaries because it's such an adult book. Usually it looks heavy. When they carry the dictionary in their small hands, it's heavy on them. And then when they open it, it's so serious looking. And so the children don't like to use dictionaries. That's why they keep asking the adults near them, what's the meaning of this word? What is the meaning of that word? So we've got to find ways to help the children to use the dictionary and love using it. First of all, is using a dictionary even important? Why do we need to have the children use dictionaries? Apart from the fact that we have said it helps to extend their vocabulary, and we have seen the importance of extending their vocabulary. But the dictionary helps the children master concepts like spelling, because when they look at the dictionary, when they look up a word in the dictionary will give them the correct spelling of that word. It helps them with word meaning. Apart from giving them the spelling of that word, it will also explain the meaning of that word. It helps them to learn alphabetical order, because the dictionary is a word book arranged in alphabetical order. And finally, it helps them to learn word classes. Again, in the dictionary, the different words are classified together. And merely by using dictionaries, the child will automatically soak up this information, and it will be easy for him to learn them. All right, so let's see how we can get our children to start using dictionary and love using a dictionary. When do you think a child should use a dictionary? When should we introduce it? The latest time should be when the child is 3 years old. It can be before that time, but the only thing is that it's not going to answer dictionary. It will be a word book when the child is less than 3. So it will have nouns with pictures and the words written on them, so that the adult, the teacher, the parent can show the child and read the words to the child, because the child is a non-reading child at this point. So, but even though he's non-reading, if he sees a car, he will recognize the car, and then he will say, it's a car. At that time, you are introducing him gently into the use of dictionaries. When he gets to age 3, you bring in the picture dictionary. The picture dictionary will have different pictures, the same thing as what I've explained, but now arranged in alphabetical order. And so, if it is A, the letter A, it will have nouns, pictures of nouns that have A, that start with A, flashy pictures that the child can recognize. The child is still mostly non-reading. He will be able to read a little bit, but it's not truly reading until you take him in a full phonics class, which is why we say that the Jolly Phonics class is for children who are 4. But knowing that children don't turn 4 at the same time, you will have children who are 3+ in the same class and children who are 4+. Again, it varies from one area to another. In some parts of the world, children will be much older than that, and they haven't had the opportunity to learn synthetic phonics. You don't go and say because they are over 4 years, you can't give this to them. No, you go ahead and give them the phonics training. So at this stage, the children are able to use their picture dictionaries. This is the first time they start hearing the word picture dictionaries, but they won't mind because the book is lovely. It is full of pictures. They will love to handle the book themselves, always leafing through them, going and pointing out to you what they can identify. So you let them play around with it a lot of the times. Each of those nouns will be described by the very first dictionary, but described in a very elementary way for the child to understand. But as the child advances in age, the definition changes according to the age of the children. So selecting the right dictionary is the first step. When the child is 5, ensure that the dictionary you are getting for your child is for age 5. And make sure also that your child is at that level of development. Remember that no 2 children are at the same level of development at the same time. So monitor your child and see what suits him or her best. Let's look at another way we can help the children develop a love for dictionaries. When you are reading to your child or when you are reading for yourself, why don't you have a dictionary at hand? So if you are reading to the child and you come across a word that the child does not know, it is very likely that the child will ask you, Mom, or if it is in class, it will ask the teacher, what does that word mean? Use that opportunity immediately to say, you know what, why don't we check our dictionary? Because you have the dictionary beside you. And so you tell the child, can we open up to the dictionary and let us find that word and see what this word means? So the children, you guide the children to look for that word, and when they find it, they read out the meaning and you discuss it. By so doing, the children start to see how valuable using the dictionary is. When we talk about this, it means that the children have started to see that the dictionary does not only show them the meaning of the word, but it also shows them the correct spelling of that word. So, when a child is writing and he meets a word that he's not sure of the spelling, he writes it one way and then he pauses, he's not sure. And he comes to you and you encourage him and say, yeah, I think I'm not sure of this spelling. Why don't we look it up in the dictionary so that we can get the correct spelling? So the child says that he can get the meaning of a word, he can get the spelling of that word from the dictionary. We can also compile a dictionary scavenger hunt. Let the children develop their own dictionaries. Anytime they come across a new word, you ask them to write them down. Write the words down. As they write them down, you use that opportunity to also extend their skills on alphabetical order, because you now start asking them and helping them to put those words in alphabetical order. Which one comes under A? Which one comes under B? Which one comes under C? By doing like this, the children are making their own dictionaries and they are excited about it. It makes them be part of your teaching to them, part of their learning from you. It helps them to own their own learning. We can play a lot of word games with the children. If you don't start early, the children get, intimidated by word games. A typical example is Scrabble. Scrabble is such a wonderful word game, but a lot of children are frightened of it because they think that it shows their limitations with words. But when you start them early and let them celebrate every word they use on the Scrabble game, they start loving it. When you combine this with lots of reading they do, lots of activities they do on word games, the children fall in love with words. And that's what you want. When they do, they are able to extend their vocabularies. When they speak, you start wondering, when did you learn this word? Moving on, every class in every school should have their weekly spelling challenges. Remember not to use negative words for events so that the children don't get scared of. If you call it a challenge, the children get scared of and they think, oh, I'm not good enough. I shouldn't be part of this event. No. You can start off with a spelling book where the children have the words they are supposed to learn for that week. And so when they get home, they can use their dictionaries at home to look up the words and discuss it with their parents. This helps them to engage with words and extend their vocabulary. All of this helps them with their creative writing, because whatever new word they learn, or an old word they knew before but didn't know the meaning, or they knew the meaning but didn't know how to spell it, when this happens, they are afraid to use that word. But once they know the meaning and they know the spelling, you can't stop them from using it. They will start using it over and over again just to show you that they have learned this. It is a killer. In doing all of this, remember, be playful. It's no big deal. You know it is a big deal. But for the children, make it fun. Let the children be happy. When you are scoring their work, it's always good to use two colors of pens. One color for the errors you notice, and the other color for the wow words that you meet, so that the children are celebrating at the same time as correcting what needs to be corrected. So they see the two sides of life. It's not all about correction, correction, correction. Does it mean they don't do anything right? No, they do a lot of things right. And we have to celebrate that as well. And that's about dictionaries. How about a thesaurus? A lot of schools have dictionaries for the children, but they forget all about thesauruses. And that's why children overuse words, because they don't know synonyms. They don't know other words they can use in place of that word. Unless the children learn to love, even to know about a thesaurus and love using it. And once they know about it, once they are introduced to and a thesaurus, they will fall in love with it, just like the dictionary. As usual, remember, it's a word book, just like the dictionary. When you want to use it, you have to look it up in alphabetical order because all the words are arranged in alphabetical order. Once you find the word, the main word you looked up in the thesaurus will be written there, but alongside it will be written other words that can be used in place of that. The child will then be taught how to select out of these words, these other words, the one that is most suitable for his sentence. When a child has a dictionary and a thesaurus beside him, while he is reading, while he is in class, while he is doing anything, and learns and loves how to use both of them, you can't even stop him from extending his vocabulary. It becomes automatic. Use of the thesaurus, there's an exercise that is very good in encouraging the children to use their thesaurus. It is called the word web exercise. With this exercise, we remind the children that in order to make their writing more interesting, they need to replace overly used common words with more interesting words. A word like said. He said, I said, she said, my teacher said, my dad said. So we start to encourage the children to find other words that can replace that said, depending on what that sentence is talking about. So I'm going to show you this word web exercise. It is showing on the screen. You can see it's a spider web, and it has said in the middle. The web has different sections where the child is supposed to use his thesaurus to find another word to replace said, and then he can put it in each of those sections. When you do this and the children feel challenged in a nice way, you see how many words a child can get. Such words include the ones I'm showing on the screen now, but remember, allow the children to find their own words, but I've got cried, exclaimed, whispered, announced, replied. These are all synonyms to said. The child can find other ones. And when he does, celebrate it. Wow, this is fantastic. It's very good. See you in the next lesson.
Dictionary, it's necessary, helps with your writing when you can't spell words. If you cannot spell it, look it up and tell it. Words are all in order of the alphabet. Dictionary, it's necessary, gives definitions of an unknown word. If you do not know it, look it up and show it. Words are all in order of the alphabet. Dictionary, it's necessary, keep one beside you when you read and write. All the words are listed, they are never twisted. A to Z, you'll find them alphabetical. Dictionary, it's necessary, don't be without one, learning words is fun. Dictionary, it's necessary, don't be without one, learning words is fun.
Hi there. In this lesson, we're going to be looking at prefixes and suffixes. How do we describe these to the children who are little? Well, we can tell them that a prefix is a word part. That's a part of a word that is placed in front of a base word, a main word, to change its meaning. Now, that word part can be a syllable, and once it comes in front of the base word, the meaning changes. Look at what I have on the screen. You see prefix, this. You see the base word, connect, and then the new word that is formed, disconnect, which means the opposite of connect. Then look at the next prefix, re. And the base word is do, and the new word that is formed is redo, which means do it again. Another prefix is co, and the base word is exist, and both of them put together form a new word, coexist, to live with, to stay with. There are 4 most useful prefixes, and all of them mean not. So I would like us to look at this because the children at this age will be seeing a lot of them and using a lot of them. So they need to understand that these are prefixes. And once you put any one of them just before a word, it changes the meaning of that word to the opposite of that word. Okay, so we've got on, this, miss, and im. They're all showing on the screen. So see on plus tidy. The base word is tidy. Both of them will give you untidy, which is the opposite of tidy. Then look at the next prefix, this. When you place it in front of the base word, like, it gives you dislike, which is the opposite of like. If you don't like somebody, you dislike him. Then look at that syllable, miss. That's a prefix. When you place it in front of behave, you get a different word, which is misbehave. And that's the opposite of behave. And finally, aim, placed before possible, gives you a new word, impossible, the opposite of possible. These are very common and used every day by both adults and children. The children can start with this, but you continue to expand the prefixes they know as they get older and older, both in age and their literacy journey. Now, how about suffixes? Prefix, like the name shows, pre, means that you put it before the base word. But when it's suffix, it means that the word part is put at the end of the word, not at the beginning, like in prefix. Okay, let's look at some examples. Hope plus less. Hope is the best word, and less is another word. But when they come together, they become hopeless. Fear and less coming together become fearless. Harm plus less put together, they make a new word, harmless. Now there are rules governing the use of suffixes. Let's look at them. 1. If a verb ends with a consonant which is not immediately after a short vowel sound, when you want to add the suffix ing, then you don't change anything. You don't add anything. Just add the ing. Example, jump, as is showing on the screen. you just add ing to get jumping. You've changed the tense of the verb. Number 2, if the verb root ends with an E and you want to change the tense to a continuous one, then remove the E first before you add the ing. So look at that word smile. It ends in E. You remove the E first and then add ing. Number 3, if the verb root ends with a consonant immediately after a short vowel sound, that's the opposite of number 1, then what you need to do is to double that final consonant before you add the ing. Okay, let's look at an example. Pat, P-A-T. The short vowel sound there is ah, pat. And so, because the consonant T comes immediately after that short vowel sound, then you have to double it to get pattern. These 3 rules are very simple and easy for the children to follow. There are many other rules, but we don't want to suffocate the children with too many rules. We want them to build up gradually, step by step. Have you noticed that there's actually a difference between the usage of prefixes and suffixes? Let's look at it. Let's see what kind of difference we have. When we add a prefix to a word, the base word does not change at all. Remember all the examples we showed? Can you remember them? Behave, misbehave. You see, that behave is still there. It has not changed. The spelling is the same. That word is the same. But when you add a suffix to the end of a base word, it can change. Let's look at some examples. Look at the screen now. We have the word hop, and we have the suffix ing. The new word that is formed is hopping. Now, what changed there is that the P is doubled because of that rule I just taught you. Look at the second one, race. The suffix is ed. Remember number 2 rule? You have to remove the E and then add ed. So you get raced. And what changed there is that the silent E is dropped. See the third one, happy. You want to change it, add a suffix there, ly. When you do, happily is the word you get. What changed? Y is changed to I. Another word is leaf. You want to change it to plural, so you want to add ears. But the word you get is leaves. F is changed to V. And for goose, the word you get is geese. It's an irregular plural. Usually, at this stage and ages of the children, we don't teach them irregular plurals. So we just teach them regular ones for them to become very comfortable with the regular ones, so that when they see an irregular one, they can say, oh, this is irregular. So you can see prefixes and suffixes are different. Even though there are syllables that you add at the beginning or at the end, but in usage, there are some differences. Regular practice will help the children to internalize these teachings. See you in the next lesson.
It's a prefix song, why don't you sing along? Put one at the front of a word where it belongs, so the word will prefix and you'll find that the word can change to something like unkind. It's the meaning that has changed as the word is rearranged, but we never mind. It's a prefix song, why don't you sing along? Put one at the front of a word where it belongs, so the word will change. You don't need to find it strange. It's a prefix song. Take a word like take, add a prefix and you'll make the entire word change to something like mistake. It's the meaning that has changed as the word is rearranged. Well, for goodness sake. It's a suffix song, why don't you sing along? Put one at the end of a word where it belongs, so the word will change. You don't need to find it strange. It's a suffix song. Take a word like do, add a suffix, why don't you? And the word can change to doing, it is true. It's the meaning that has changed as the word is rearranged. You should try one too. It's a suffix song, why don't you sing along? Put one at the end of a word where it belongs, so the word will change. You don't need to find it strange. It's a suffix song. Take a word like ill, add a suffix, yes you will, and the word can change to illness, what a thrill. It's the meaning that has changed as the word is rearranged. It's a clever skill.
Hello and welcome to this lesson. Today we are going to be learning about the comparative and superlative adjectives. These are adjectives. I know we learned adjectives in Grammar 1. Adjectives, the words that look at nouns and describe them. But those adjectives we learned in Grammar 1, they are called positives, because they do not compare one noun to another. They just describe the noun. But now we're going to learn about the comparatives and superlatives. These are adjectives that describe a noun or a pronoun by comparing it with one or more other items. Now, a comparative is used for comparing a noun with one other item, not more than one. But when you have more than one item, then you use a superlative. When we use a comparative, we add the suffix er to the adjective to make it comparative. For example, a word like small showing on the screen, you add the suffix er to change it to smaller. That means it's a comparative because it's comparing one item, one noun to another. So one item is smaller than the other. It's not comparing more than one item. The suffix est is added to an adjective to make it superlative, which means most, because you are comparing one noun to more than one item. When it is just one item, it's comparative and use er. But when it is more than one item, then we use est. So the same small that we have, instead of becoming smaller, it will now become smallest. That means there are more than one item being compared, and that particular one that the adjective is referring to, is describing, is the smallest out of all of them. When we have short adjectives, then it's easy to use the est to make the superlatives. But when the adjectives are longer, then it becomes important to use something else. Otherwise, the word will be too long. That is why for a word like small, we have smallest, we use est. Pretty, we have prettiest. But when it is a long word, like beautiful, we don't say beautifuler or beautifulest. To make the comparative, we use more beautiful. And when it is superlative, we say most beautiful, out of more than one person. Remember to use lots of examples, plenty of words. Right now, you'll be giving the children a lot of these words during their spelling and in their record books going home, so they can change them to comparatives and superlatives and see how they fare. I'll see you in the next lesson.
Comparatives are useful, they help you to compare two objects or items. You need to be aware if they both are strong, but one of them is more. That one is the stronger, of that we can be sure. So if you want to say that anything is more, add the letters ER, that is what they're for. Taller or softer, bigger you can see. Putting ER on the end is certainly the key. Superlatives are useful, they help you to compare two or more items. You need to be aware if they all are heavy, but one of them the most, then it is the heaviest, but there's no need to boast. So if you want to say that the most is what you've got, add the letters EST, just give it a shot. Tallest or softest, biggest you can see. Add EST on the end, I think that you'll agree.
Hi again. In this lesson, we're going to look at commas and exclamation marks. Let's start with commas. We use commas to separate words in a list. When we have a list of words, we use commas to separate them. Now, when doing this, the last two words on that list will usually not have a comma, but have and to separate them, or. Yeah, that's funny. So let's look at the words on the screen. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet.
8
are the colors of the rainbow. So you can see, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet are the colors of the rainbow. So you can see, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet are the colors of the rainbow. So you can see, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet are the colors of the rainbow. So you can see, that we use commas to separate them, and then the last two words we use and to separate them. Let me show you another example. On the farm, there are cows, dogs, pigs, sheep, and chickens. You can see again that the last two words are separated by and, while the others have commas in between them. Now, when we have only two items on a list, we don't use comma to separate them unless it helps with the understanding, because if the reader is going to get confused when he reads that list, then you will need to use comma. Let's look at an example. Look at that screen. Please buy bread and milk. This is easy. So we use and, to separate them. But how about please buy custard and banana muffins? We don't use comma after custard. It might then mean that what the person wants is custard and banana muffins, because you can have muffins that are just custard muffins, or banana muffins, or custard and banana muffins. So you see how not using a comma when you have only two items can get confusing, because even though there are three words, but banana muffins are actually one. At this point, we don't need to talk to the children about the UK convention, the US convention, where they use commas before and, because the children are still so small. As they go on in their literacy journey, we will now be able to show them when people use commas before and. Then that means they are following the USA convention. But at this point, it is very okay for the children to understand what we have explained already about the commas. How about the exclamation marks? Exclamation marks are used to express excitement, surprise, astonishment, or any other such strong emotion. Any exclamatory sentence should be followed by an exclamation mark written like this. Look at the example there. And look at the words. Help. How lovely. Wow. Great. Oh dear. Ouch. That hurts. Oh no. Stop. Go away. Gosh. I can't believe it. These are strong emotional statements or words, and they require exclamation marks. When you want to put the exclamation mark, remember to take away the full stop and then put the exclamation mark. Easy peasy. See you in the next lesson. Hello, welcome to this lesson. Today we are going to be looking at vowels and consonant doubling. To start with, we are going to look at short vowel sounds, because the rules we are going to apply today depend on the short vowels. Do you remember the short vowels that we learned about in your Jolly Phonics class? The letters A, E, I, O, U, and the sounds they make. A, E, O, E. These are the short vowel sounds. They can confuse the children at this point when they start learning the alternative sounds that can be made from these letters. And because the rules of the doubling depend on these short vowels, it's important for us to make sure that the children remember the sounds, which is which. So we have an entertaining way to make them remember it. We get a box, or even use your hand I'm going to use my hand right now to show this. Okay, so for the first one, at the side, is at the side of the box. This, my hand, is the box. And this other hand is the vowel sound. A is at the side. E is on the edge. A is inside. I put my fingers inside the box. O is on top of the box. A is underneath. Okay, so once I teach this in my class, I'll now make it almost habitual 2-3 times a day to call the children together and ask them to identify the short vowel sounds. So they will get a box or use their hands for a box and go A at the side, E on the edge, A inside the box, O on top, underneath. When the children are very conversant with this, you are sure they are not making any mistakes. They can recognize and identify the short sounds. Then we move into the doubling rules. So let's look at these doubling rules. The first one says that in a short word with a short vowel sound, like the ones we have just identified, if the last consonant in that word is F, B, S, or Z, then you must double it. You see how children, once they know these rules, these small rules, they're able to make their spellings correct by themselves. Because when they write a word, then they remember the rule and they go back to that word and say, no, I need to double this. So look at words that obey this rule. Cliff, bell, miss, buzz. When a child writes bell, he hears the sound eh, and so he knows that the last consonant must be doubled. But if he has written it with B-E-L, after all, that says bell as well. So why should he double it? He will now remember that he has learned the doubling rule, that when a short vowel sound is in the middle, the last consonant must be doubled. Then the second doubling rule says that in a short word with a short vowel sound, if the last consonant is K, then you must spell it as CK. For instance, back, neck, sick, clock. These have short vowel sound. Back has A, neck has E, sick has E, and clock has O. So the last consonant sound is K. So you cannot use only K. You must use CK to get that spelling correct. So how about a word like soak? I've put it on this screen for you to see. Soak. S-O-A-K. Why is it not S-O-A-C-K? Because the vowel in the middle is not a short vowel sound. It's O or A. Therefore, it does not require CK. It's only K that it requires. Then the third rule says that if there is only one consonant after a short vowel sound, this consonant must be doubled before you can put any suffix that starts with a vowel. Let me repeat that. If there is only one consonant after a short vowel sound, then that consonant must be doubled. If you want to use a suffix that starts with a vowel, for instance, when you want to change a word to past tense or change the tense, add ing, because it starts with a vowel, then the consonant must be doubled. Let's look at examples. Hop. Hop. The short sound there is O, and the consonant after it is P, and the single. Therefore, we must double it to get the past tense ed. We add ed, so we double the consonant. How about wet? Wetter. So, because the er suffix starts with a vowel, we have to double the t. Okay. What of the superlative biggest? The base word is big. And so if you want to change that word and make it superlative, you add est. But you can't do that because unless you double the G, because the vowel in the middle is a short vowel, A. So you see, it is quite simple. The fourth rule concerns words with the letters LE ending them. Words that end with letters LE. If the preceding syllable contains a short stressed vowel sound, then there must be two consonants between the short vowel and the LE. So you have a word, and that word ends with LE, and the sound in the middle is a short sound. You have to have two consonants in the middle. Let's look at an example or some examples to buttress what we are saying. Look at that word, paddle. To get the correct spelling of paddle, you look at the letters that end that word, LE. Look for the sound in that word. Is it a short vowel sound? It is. Ah, paddle. So it means you will need two consonants. That's why we have D, D. We double the D. The same thing with nibble, topple, snuggle. We double the consonants. But it's not only when you double the consonant that is already existing in that word. Sometimes you can have a word that you don't need to double that consonant. Let's look at such words. Look at a word like handle. It ends in LE. Look at it on the screen. It also ends in LE. And the sound that it has in the middle is a short sound. Ah, handle. So why is it not doubled? It's not doubled. The consonant at the end is not doubled because already there are two, N and D. Therefore, it doesn't need another doubling. The same thing goes with twinkle, jungle. They already have two consonants between the short vowel sound and the LE. Therefore, no doubling is required. These four rules are important for the children to make their spellings very good. So it is best that you keep practicing. Once you teach this, you keep practicing and giving them many words, giving them dictations, and let them pause to think about it. It has a short sound and it ends with a consonant, okay, or it ends with LE. So that consonant, should I double it or is it already doubled? It makes the children think and participate. You engage them. I'll see you in the next lesson. Hi there. In today's lesson, we're going to look at the initial consonant blending. What I mean is, what happens when a word starts with two consonants sitting together? It can be a problem for the children. Look at a word like drum. It starts with D-R-U-M. So for the child to spell it, the word is completely blendable. The child will hear the sound D, R, M. But if the child does not say that word very well, you will see that the child, instead of writing drum, he will write dumb. and he will miss the second consonant sound. It is because of the way they learned their sounds. That's why we teach the children that in saying the sounds of these two consonants that are sitting together at the beginning of the word, you say the two sounds as if they are one. But you must ensure that you hear the sound of each letter, because the two letters are not a digraph. You must hear the sound of each of them. So instead of the child to go d, r, he will say dr, So, but he is hearing d, r. By so doing, he will be able to write down the letter that represents each sound he hears, and he will be able to get that word. We have an exercise that we use to get the children to practice this a whole lot. Okay? Because teaching this kind of concept, you've got to make it fun, you've got to make it hands-on, get the children involved in doing things, because when they do things, they don't forget. They remember it. So I am going to show you the exercise, but look at the screen and see how it is. We've got what we call initial blend wheels. There is a big disc and a smaller disc. Now you put the smaller disc on top of the larger one, and then turn the small one around. Each time you turn it around, you can see that that small disc has two consonants sitting together. The child will then use those two consonants with the two letters in the larger disc to form a word. The child will then decide, is this a real word or it's not a real word? I'm going to do the exercise with you right now. So let's go. Hi. In this lesson, we are going to look at the initial blend wheel. The initial blend wheel is a very good activity for teaching children how to hear the sound that two consonants make when they are sitting together. When this happens, we're not talking about digraphs. The child needs to hear the sound of each of those consonant letters. If he doesn't hear them, he won't write them, and therefore he will have a wrong spelling of the word. And one of the activities we use to teach them, reinforce, and practice how to hear the consonants is what we call the initial blend wheels. So what we do is we get these two discs together. There is this bigger one at the bottom and then the smaller disc on top. We hold the small disc with a pin on top of the bigger one, and then we turn the small disc around to make words. Where I am now, you can see it says the initial consonants are GR. Two consonants sitting together, and then on top of the larger disc, you see the last two letters, AN. So the word is gran. The child here has to hear gr. If he doesn't, he will write gan or ran, but it's gran. Then you twist it, so the same gr makes now grub. You move it again, green. You move it again, grog. And then the child goes, no, grog. Is it a word? No, I don't think so. So he moves it, grip. Yeah, that's a word, grip. He moves again, grab. It is a word. He moves it again, gram. Not sure. I'm going to look that up in the dictionary. I will look that up in the dictionary. Moves it again, gram. It is a word, yes. Moves it again and gets grub. No, not a word. Moves down, grug. No. Again, gran. Yes. And that's so many words with just the GR. Two consonant letters staying together. Then he moves to the next consonant cluster, that's SN. And he goes snan, not a word. Moves it, snub. No, not sure. I will look it up. You see, you are achieving many things with this. The dictionary skills, the Thesaraus skills, getting them to hear the sounds of the consonant letters so that the spellings will be correct. By the time the child has done the same thing with all these consonant letters sitting together and use them for all these ending letters, he will have a very large bank of words with lots of initial consonants. You can do the same activity with ending consonants. So instead of this smaller disc having the initial consonants, two consonants staying together, it could be the larger disc that have the ending consonants while this one doesn't. So different variations to make this happen. This is a good literacy activity. Practice it a lot in your class. Thank you. I'll see you in the next class. Hi there. In today's lesson, we are going to look at proofreading a story. Yes, I know the children are so young, 5 and 6 years old, going to 7, and we're talking of proofreading. Now is the time to start them off on that journey, because if you don't, they miss having that foundation. When they get older, it will not be the same anymore. Because during the Jolly Phonics class and now during this Jolly Grammar levels 1 and 2, we've taught the children so many concepts, so many skills, and the children can now write independently. They can use variations of words, different parts of speech. They can choose different words using their thesauruses. They know meanings that they get from their dictionaries. They can write stories that are very interesting. But they should also learn how to proofread their stories. So we are going to introduce them to proofreading. It is introduction, so that they get the rudimentary skills in place. And so as they get older, it will no longer be a big deal for them. They will love doing it themselves. Now, when we talk about proofreading, it is the final stage of the editing process, and it focuses on surface errors such as misspellings, spelling errors, or mistakes with grammar, with punctuation. You know, the children will look for where brackets should be, or different kinds of punctuations, commas, full stops. These are all the things they will be looking out for. Now, the very first barrier that the children meet when you start talking proofreading is that they feel so discouraged, as if they do everything wrong. So when they write a story and submit to the teacher returns it after grading it, and they see all these red marks all over the place, showing all the errors they made. And the child is sad. But we want to turn that frown upside. We want the child to be happy. So we ask the teacher to use 2 different colors. One is to underline the words that are fantastic words, and the other one is to underline the errors that the child should look out for and correct. Because it's not just to read through and find the errors. You have to then correct them. Okay, so how can we help the children to start proofreading? The first thing is to teach the children to read their stories out loud. Because when they read aloud, they hear the story better than when they are reading silently. Their thoughts, can go to different places and you think they're still reading that story. If the story is about a dog, they've moved on to sheep and they're still reading the story of dog. But when they're reading it out, they're hearing what they wrote, and the teacher and the others are hearing it as well. You could start by reading out your own so that the child knows that, yes, it is something that is not to stigmatize the child. It is a fun thing to do. When reading the story, read carefully and slowly so that the children will hear and enjoy the story. Pay attention to details. For instance, it's easy to overlook punctuations. A lot of adults end up writing stories without any punctuation at all. It's because they were not given this foundation. So they thought it was okay to write without punctuation, and their story makes no meaning. So we pay attention to details greatly. We can have the children point out errors and propose changes so that we make it fun. Okay, so whether the changes, the errors are with tenses, with grammar, with vocabulary, let the children propose more interesting ways of correcting them. That will help them to be part of the learning. The teacher can start by modeling this activity, because there is nothing like being the model. When the teacher is a model to the children would want to be like the teacher. Most children love their teachers and want to emulate them. So the teacher can read her story and then ask the children to help her proofread. So the children will start pointing out some things and then proposing a way to correct them. When they do this, the teacher can then pair off children, so that one person reads to the other. After that, the second person reads to the first one, and the process will be repeated. This is a very fun way of introducing proofreading. Having the children work with each other is also very useful, because sometimes the children learn better from each other than from the teacher, because they look at the teacher as up there and then they are small. But when it is, a friend or a seatmate, somebody in the classroom, they can, flow with that person. This course covered 2 levels: children in primary 1, 5 to 6 years, and children in primary 2, 6 to 7 years. So for proofreading, what should you be looking at? For children who are just 5 in primary 1, they should be able to reread whatever they have written. If you start them off like that, then they will not become lazy about rereading their work when they are adults. So they know it is compulsory. They enjoy it because they want to see that they don't have errors. And if they have errors, they want to find the errors before another person finds them. The children need to discuss what they have written with the teacher or other children in the same class with them, or even with their parents back home. So they can talk about their story, they can give it to the parents to read, or the children, other children to read. The children should be able to check for correct use of spelling and spelling patterns. Remember the alternative sounds, for the alternative spellings for the same sound. So the children will be able to check for that. And the other child who is proofreading his work will also be able to check for it. All this can happen in year 1. That's in primary 1. They can also look out for the spelling rules that we've taught them, both in the Jolly Phonics and the Jolly Grammar. For their level, they can check for all of this. They are all part of proofreading. But when they now advance to primary 2, they will need to do all the things we've talked about for primary 1. But in addition to that, because they are now older, they now know more, their literacy journey has advanced further. So they will now be able to evaluate their writing with the teacher and other pupils. They become more serious now. Because they are the people that will even tell you, look, I'm not a child. Yeah, I mean, he's only 6, but he thinks he's not a child. Okay? They can reread their works to check for whether their writing is making sense, the sentences or the group of words they have, are they sentences? They remember everything we taught them about sentences. In other words, all the concepts we taught them in Grammar 2 should now come into this proofreading. And that's the whole point of teaching them concepts, for them to use them in practical forms. You are not just teaching them for the sake of teaching, it's for them to practice what they have learned. The children should proofread too, to check for errors in spelling, grammar, and punctuation. Remember that in Grammar 2, there are some parts of speech that were brought new, that were not taught in Grammar 1. So the children should be looking out for those ones now. They will be using them. And in proofreading, they will be checking to make sure they use them appropriately and the spellings are correct, grammar correct. Now with this, you will see that the children will amaze you and amaze themselves with how they can make their stories so interesting and so varied. At this point, you are practically ready for advancing this literacy journey with the Grammar 3 and 4. Thank you so much. I have enjoyed these lessons with you. I know that the assessment you have for proofreading, for parsing, finding the parts of speech in stories will be so easy for you to do. I'll see you in Grammar 3 and 4. Bye-bye.